Welcome to Crosstalk. Tonight we want to look at climate crisis and creation care. You know, today the world was celebrating or marking the World Environment Day. Maybe the question I should ask, what did you do to contribute to creation care today? You can share your feedback or any activity that you engaged in as an organization or as an individual on our SMS line 20316. WhatsApp line is 0786 316 316. On the show tonight, I have people who are passionate about environment. They are passionate about advocacy on things that deals with creation care. And I'm joined by Reverend Godfrey Adera. He is a priest in the Anglican Church of Kenya, a lecturer at St. Paul's University. He's done quite a lot when it comes to issues of environment. I'm also joined by Justus Munyoki, who is a coordinator of the Sustainable Energy Access Association Kenya. I think I got that right. And you'll also be telling us what the association does when it comes to creation care and taking care of our environment. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you, Reverend. You know, sometimes we tend to put aspects of spirituality and religion almost in every aspect of our lives and spheres of our lives. And it's a good thing that we can have appreciation of faith in every aspect of our lives. When it comes to issues environment, and today being World Environment Day, does it have anything to do with faith?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for having us for this conversation. And as a Kenyan, I want to begin by going back to Wangari Maathai, one of our icons in environmental conservation and climate justice and things like that. And part of her work beyond advocacy was shaping conversations. And one thing she said is that in the African space, our African spirituality provides resources that we can utilize in terms of engaging in environmental conservation and things like that. And so faith has a role to play based on that wisdom that she's shared with us. Faith has a role to play, and for two reasons. Number one, faith convenes people. Every Sunday, every Friday, days of the week that people worship in their faith traditions, you find thousands and thousands of people in one particular space. So that convening aspect of faith is important because within that convening, the second thing would become convincing. How do we convene 1,000 people without convincing them about things that matter? So faith needs then to shift from just convening to convince people about creation care. And all our traditions, be it Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and the rest of even African traditional religions, they talk about some aspect about creation care. So we convene people and convince them about this care. That's number one. Number two, the role of faith in this thing is theology. Faith produces theology, and theology basically shapes the way people believe, the way people talk and engage with the world. So if our theologies do not support people's actions, then somebody would call them dead theologies. So we have a role to shape theologies to support people engage in creation care. I teach eco-theology, which is basically a combination of ecology and theology, a cross-pollination of the two. How does ecological concerns matter theologically? And how does theology contribute to aspects of ecological crisis, response to ecological crisis, and just supporting people to engage constructively? So yes, faith has a role to play in this entire conversation.
All right. Yeah. We'll be coming back to just get more on the practical ways, then we can do that. Mr. Justus, when we talk about environment, and we are celebrating World Environment Day, we always just think about tree planting and forest. What exactly do we celebrate today or mark?
Okay, thank you so much for hosting us.
Yes.
And many times when we talk of environment, people always think of forests or trees. However, environment is our surrounding, everything that is in our surrounding. And therefore, a question that should be coming, and first I want to appreciate this opportunity that we have, that we are commemorating or celebrating the World Environment Day. It's just a clarion call and a reminder that we have an environment to take care of. And as my brother said, the creation care is very important for us. And therefore, it's all about what is around us. How can we be able to take care of our environment? That is the big theme of this day that we celebrate. And so, therefore, we need not not only look into forest or trees, but again, even everything else. And the big question will be, or the focus should be, how do we take care or take good care of the creation, because that is the environment. And therefore, we need to look at it into different aspects. Look at the pollution. When we pollute, do we take care of the environment? If we do, then how best can we do maybe the waste management and water fill to make sure that the creation that God gave us then is well taken care of. Just to refer again, that remember, we were created and we were given the dominion to take care of the environment, right?
Yep.
And therefore, that is the creation part of it. And God saw that we, as mankind, will take that responsibility. And so during this day, it's just that reminder. Have we been taking care of the environment? And then try to look at the milestones or what is happening, right, to date.
Okay.
If not, then this is the reminder of this day that we have some work to do so that we can be able to take care of the creation that God has given unto us. So we need to look into different aspects, and I know we'll be able to discuss some of the activities and what we need to do during the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rev, when it comes to stewardship, because he's spoken about it, if then this is a command that we've been given, then take care of the creation. So it's an element where God is calling us to a stewardship level to take care of whatever our surrounding is. It seems that if faith then interacts with that nature, then we are not very good stewards. If you look at what we are seeing around and when it comes to issues of environment.
Yeah. But first of all, I also like the shift. I'll begin from that, the shift from dominion to stewardship. Because you read the Genesis text and people talk about God asking humanity to go dominate. And of course, dominion as a motive has come with other aspects to it. For example, exploitation as part of what dominion would mean. Consumerism, and also even some of the capitalist ideals finds their meaning within the dominion motif. And theology has worked a lot to shift that into stewardship. So stewardship simply means care of creation. And maybe from an African or a very Kenyan language, stewardship simply means you are not the owner of that thing. You are taking care of something that somebody has entrusted you to do. And so creation is God's creation. The whole world belongs to God, and there's a Bible verse to that in Psalms. We will talk about that. And so God is asking us to take care of that which belongs to God. Remember, when God has created the world, he declares all is good. And so today when we look at the world, would we still say that all is good? We look at different aspects of the world. For example, you see flooding every time in our country here, a lot of flooding every time. We see famine in many parts of the country. Would you still want to say that the creation is good? It comes to the place of admitting that as human beings, we have corrupted God's creation. We've destroyed God's creation, and the good that God put in it no longer exists. So stewardship means returning back to God's idea. So going back to God's ideal. What do I need to do as somebody who doesn't own the environment? It belongs to God. From an African perspective also, we say we don't own nature. Nature owns us. And so how do we appreciate nature? By going back to nature in ways that then support it to support life. So what faith needs to do is to emphasize the shift from dominion to stewardship, and also support people to come up with very practical ways of making that stewardship a reality in our daily life.
Okay.
Yeah.
How easy is it to preach sermons on environment in our pulpits? Assume you walk into a Sunday service and the preacher of the day is talking about environment as a sermon. How will that look like?
Yeah, first of all, it's a challenge, but secondly, it's happening. Different faith traditions have specific days of marking particular things. For example, I know in the Roman Catholic Church, in the Anglican Church where I am a priest, and I've also seen that in many other churches, there is the Environment Day, where then there is what my brother said about tree planting, tree growing, but also sermons around it. And so people speaking about it in sermons. So there are specific days that people talk about the environment, but that is not enough. So you don't hear many sermons every day talk about care of creation. But I think through this conversation, and I really appreciate Family Media for this, it's an invitation and a wake-up call to ministers out there, people who, I said before, convene thousands of people. Would you preach a holistic gospel? Part of it is what God says that creation longs for. Paul says creation longs for the salvation of God. That salvation does not just belong to humanity. Even creation needs to be saved. So would you also come to a place of preaching that holistic gospel, that they're also longing for creation to, they're longing for salvation. So it's difficult, but it's happening, and it's just to support that continues to happen more and more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as when we talk about environment, and sometimes when you talk about climate crisis, and we've seen quite a lot of it, people are talking about global warming. We are talking about unpredictable patterns when it comes to weather and rainfall. When you talk about it, we talk about it from global statistics. From a Kenyan perspective, what are we talking about?
When we talk of environment and climate crisis or climate change, many of the people tells us that, you are using technical jargons and all that, of which we have just been able to try to our best to make people understand this. I will just give an example. I remember some years ago, because climate change affects all of us, no matter our classes, no matter whatever, but all of us, we are victims of the same. And one day we had an engagement at the community level to make sure that people can appreciate, yes, climate change is real and it is with us. We asked one of the elderly, and we asked them, when we were growing up, what was happening in this river and just next? They said, by that time we used to have a lot of water, we used to swim here, the water was clean, blah, blah. Then, down the years, what has happened? There is no water. It has dried up. So what has changed? They admitted. Those are the changes that we are talking about. They are practical. Things have changed. We had water all over. We had forest cover all over. The environment, even the air was clean. But look at it today. Things have changed. My brother has just mentioned about flooding, famine, droughts, and all that, which maybe many years ago that was not happening. But today, it's a reality to us. And therefore, it's something that we need to acknowledge and accept that, yes, climate change is real. It is with us. It is affecting us on daily basis. And when we say, let's define climate change, as long as we define the causes of climate change, we say it is caused by anthropogenical activity. These are human activities. So it is us, it's our responsibilities, which has our activities, which has led to these impacts that we are feeling today.
So there is need for a mind shift.
It is there.
Yeah. Before we take a break, Rev, there's the aspect that we talked about in terms of shifts. Because most of the times we do tree planting. And today, many organizations and institutions were on the streets, on towns, doing cleanup exercises and planting trees. We were talking before we started this program that there needs to be a shift from just tree planting to tree growing. How do we do that?
One way of doing the shift is to begin to do, as he said, to make climate action an everyday reality and not something very high-level programmatic things that is only defined by people who have the knowledge and the ability to define it. Let's begin from very simple things. If you cut one tree, would you plant two? On birthdays, tell our children that on this birthday, I'm not buying a cake, we are planting trees. And the tree becomes your sibling, that every year you must make sure that that tree is nurtured. So from planting to growing of trees. When we go to our church spaces as a ministers, could we say every month we want to, maybe this year, we want to plant 100 trees and then not just plant any more tree until we nurture these ones? That people begin to do something practically, but also within that practical thing, it is underpinned with a conversation of, it's not just planting, it's about growing it. Beyond even like this, about plastic waste, for example. When you come to a meeting in a church on Sunday, you don't give the pastor water in a bottle. You bring a nice cup like this, glass, give water there. and there's a water fountain in the space, people to know that in our church, we don't use bottled water. We have one central place where we all get water. And then educate them, it is to reduce the plastic that goes to the environment. Lastly, about children, something I love about children, how do we feed their curiosity? When children see on TV the president planting trees, it's a chance to tell children that the president is doing this because we are in a crisis. And so how do we do this crisis? Tomorrow, plant 2, water it, make it grow. When children get to understand that daddy doesn't want the nanny in the house to be picking litter every day, kids to know that when I eat my chips, there's a designated place where I need to throw the waste. Also, even as a parent, beginning to refuse to buy things in the supermarkets that come with plastic packages for which will automatically go to the environment. So do something in terms of action, but underpin it to the conversation that sticks with someone as they grow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He's talked about the president and taking action. I think in 2023, November or thereabout, there was a public holiday for planting trees. And the target was around 15 billion.
Yeah.
Have we reached the target?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We are coming to discuss that.
Correct.
We are taking a short break. We are on Crosstalk talking about climate crisis and, of course, creation care. You can be part of this conversation as an individual. What specific issues or specific practical issues that you are doing to make sure that you take care of the environment? You can be sharing that with us on 20316. Our WhatsApp line is 0786 316 316. We'll be right back after this short break.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Still looking at creation care. Today marks World Environment Day. People and organizations have gone out and they did cleanup exercises. Some even planted trees. But what we are learning across this and around this table is that it goes beyond just weather patterns and planting trees to issues of faith. There's interaction of that. And when we get that, we get the role and the dominion that we are given to be stewards of the environment. And joining me in this discussion is Reverend Godfrey Adera, who is coming to us from St. Paul's University. We also have Justus Munyoki, who is the coordinator at Sustainable Energy Access Association, Kenya. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Before the break, we were looking at the public holiday that we got to plant trees, and just to see how successful was that initiative.
Yeah, we had that holiday to do the planting of trees. Remember, the target is 15 billion trees. I appreciate. It's one of the best initiatives that the government introduced to us, even as Kenyans or as a country. But at the same time, I would just say that so far as we are talking, we might not have the statistics on what already was planted and what is growing and what, because we are still, people are still through different initiatives, groups, organizations, we are still doing the tree planting and also tree growing. So we still have a long way to go because so far we can't tell we are which billion, right? How many billions have already been planted and how many are growing or surviving and what is the deficit. And therefore that again gives us a call again and an invitation that we need still to keep on doing the same work which the president also initiated to this country. But at the same time, as we also look at climate mitigation, because tree planting and growing, we call it climate mitigation measures. We try to prevent more impacts of climate change. But still, as we are doing so, we could have also looked at the other aspect of the emissions during the transport. And therefore, it's just a call that maybe in the future, or in another activity that we'll be doing that is climate related, and more especially climate mitigation measure, we need also to look at on an expert way, bring all people on the board to be able to design a sustainable activity. That again, as we plant trees or grow them, then on the other side, we're also emitting. But we need also to mitigate that so that we can do a green activity. That again, we are balancing all this. Mitigation, total mitigation. So it's just a call that even today, as we look at that, we commemorate or celebrate the World Environment Day, that some of those aspects need to be put into play. Yes.
Could I say something about that?
Yes.
Just in a minute. I think I liked the fact that during last year's holiday, something was launched. But a few days ago in the Kenya Madaraka Day celebration, I liked something that came up from the government that what used to be called kazi mtaani for vijana in Kenya, like casual work for Kenyan youth to put money in the pocket, like on the Madaraka Day, the president's speech was that is being converted to climate champions. And I have seen in different spaces people being called to apply to that quote-unquote kazi mtaani work, which is a climate champions or climate mitigation strategy, where young people will be asked to plant and grow trees, to clean our rivers and safeguard our water towers, make our environment clean, which is a good thing that the government is doing. I think it's good to acknowledge that mainstreaming climate action in government programming and work is something very good.
Justice.
Yes.
I like when you talk about this, and it looks like these are things that we already know, but we are not doing them.
Yes.
Look at our waste disposal management systems. Look at Nairobi River. It was once cleaned under the late Mishuki.
Yeah.
Now you cannot even look at it twice. Is it that we forget so quickly as a people?
I will tell you for free. And this is something that has always been disturbing my mind, and I see an opportunity. Not that the people do forget easily, but there is a gap. Just from my own thinking. As an expert, there is a gap. Because, I want to answer that by giving an example. Most of the times when we are traveling in Nairobi, using the public means, not only public means, even people walking, you see that everybody will be able, maybe you use maybe something, you have eaten something, or even water from a bottle. But then, after you are done, you just throw. Nairobi, just to be precise, Nairobi during the day, we talk of, it hosts about 5 million people. At night, maybe 3 million, for example. Assume 5 million people throwing or disposing waste through the windows or even they are walking. And then they say, in kazi ya kanju, sweeping and collecting the waste to a centralized place. Guess how many kanjus or the people that will be able to do the collecting of the waste in town? Maybe less than 500. And that doesn't strike a balance. So what we are saying is this: in order for us to be able to manage waste appropriately, as per the law, there are laws on waste management. Okay? They are there. As I said, we have laws and the policies that are existing, but we are not implementing it. So the gap is here. That people themselves, as we said, we must take a responsibility, and it starts with an individual initiative that I will not throw the waste out, okay? But I will be responsible for this to make sure that at least we manage our environment. So even when we talk of like Nairobi River and the climate works initiative by the president or the government, a very beautiful thing. But again, for us to have clean water that we were promised it should be drinkable, swimmable, and all that, then the laws on the waste discharge and disposal, it has to be addressed, because how can we have clean water in Nairobi while the industries the buildings are discharging their waste into the river. Where is the government?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we move from beyond this day? Because it's one thing to say it is World Environment Day, but if our mind is still stuck to the old ways of managing the environment, how do we move forward? Rev?
I will give an analogy of a wedding ceremony and say that a wedding ceremony is not a marriage. It's part of starting the marriage journey. So let these international celebrations be like the wedding day, but then we live every day like in a marriage. You need to work around your own selves to make your marriage work. So we appreciate these particular days, but let's make Environment Day a daily thing, an everyday reality that we deal with, so that then these days become an opportunity to showcase what is happening, to showcase what we have done, to give stories of success, to give stories of change. People in the church and people in religious spaces, how do we mainstream environment creation care as something we do every Sunday, something we do every time we meet? There are many examples we can give. Green Anglican Movement is there. The Hummingbirds Project for young people is there. And even places, how do we mainstream some of those things in the way we preach on Sunday? Could we separate some 5 minutes, 10 minutes every Sunday, for example, to talk about what is my role in taking care of God's creation?
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just as we come towards a close
Yes.
of this should have been part of the new CBC curriculum. Because I remember in our days there was a 4K club.
Yes.
I can't remember all the 4Ks, but there was Kufanya, Kutenga, and something. Yes. Is there a gap also in our education policy? There are some schools that I know that have environmental clubs and they're doing amazing work with their students there. But also there are some schools that are only used to when an MCA or an area MP wants to plant 10 trees and that's it.
I know there are schools, those who have environmental clubs, which are very good, but still, from where I sit, as long as we are talking about environment, climate change issues, it's broad. It's a discussion, a full discussion that needs stakeholders, different stakeholders, coming together with their expertise and inform or influence the design of the CBC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rev, is it a sermon that you can mobilize ministers who are watching you tonight to change their sermons for this coming Sunday to environmental focused sermon?
Yes, that's something that is possible. Take an example of what has happened today. How do we take this to Sunday sermon? But also to just invite ministers to a place that we are not strangers in this conversation. A lot of things is happening from different perspectives. I can give examples of, for example, the late Pope Francis writing called Laudato Si, and you find many religious societies, by the way, even non-religious movements, implementing a theological aspect of climate action, Laudato Si. So you find like that is a document of the church. It's other people outside of the church that are implementing its recommendations. In the Anglican Church, we have the Green Anglican Movement. So I invite pastors to know that we are not strangers in this conversation. Our colleagues are doing a lot of things, and we can continue doing that. But finally, if we preach about God who has invited us to bring people to salvation, God also wants us to ensure that the environment is saved, because Paul says the environment is longing for salvation. And so salvation should go beyond people, beyond souls, to the environment, to trees, to waters, to everything else. And that becomes a holistic gospel.
My director just told me that the 4K club stood for kuungana, kufanya, kusaidia Kenya. So I think that's the best way to end. I think it's a rallying call that we all come together to help our nation. Until next time on Crosstalk, bye-bye for now.